Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. You know, it's funny, we talk a lot about ancient wisdom on this show, but today's topic feels especially relevant to modern life. I mean, who hasn't felt overwhelmed by things they can't control lately?
Oh, absolutely. It's like that feeling is built into the fabric of our always-on 2047 world.
Right. And that's exactly why we're diving into the Stoic concept of control. We've got Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, even a sprinkle of the Serenity Prayer in the mix today.
It's amazing how this idea of separating what we can and cannot control pops up across cultures and time periods, right? Like some things are just universally human.
Totally. So to lay the groundwork for this deep dive, we're essentially talking about this core Stoic principle. Recognizing the difference between what we can and cannot control is crucial for, well, for just about everything, our happiness, our effectiveness, maybe even our sanity.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And you know, it sounds deceptively simple, like, okay, just change what you can and accept the rest. But putting it into practice, that's where it gets real.
Oh, tell me about it. The text had this brilliant analogy about being stuck at the airport with a flight delay. I mean, talk about a situation where you feel totally powerless.
Right. You're sitting there watching the minutes tick by, maybe even glaring at the departure board, as if you could mentally will the plane to arrive sooner.
Haha. Yeah, like, come on, plane, I have things to do, people to see. But seriously, that feeling of frustration and helplessness, it's the perfect illustration of what happens when we try to control the uncontrollable.
It is. And it's not just about travel lows. This spills over into every area of life, right? We get caught up trying to control our partners, our kids, the outcome of projects at work.
Our appearance.
Yes, our appearance, how people perceive us, even how we feel. And, you know, the Stoics would argue that all that energy spent trying to force outcomes is wasted energy. It actually makes us less effective and a whole lot more miserable.
So if we're going to step off the struggle bus of trying to control everything, what can we actually control?
Yeah.
Because it's got to be more than just our breathing, right?
You're catching on. The Stoics are big on this idea of choice. They'd say that even in the midst of chaos, even when it feels like everything is happening to us, we still have the power to choose how we respond.
I love that emphasis on response. It's so empowering, but to be honest, it's also where I get tripped up. Like sometimes my reactions feel so automatic.
That's totally normal. It's like we have these ingrained patterns of thinking and reacting. But the Stoics argue that with practice, we can become more conscious of those patterns. We can create space between the stimulus and our response, and in that space, that's where the real magic happens.
That reminds me of that powerful example in the text about the recovering addict. I mean, they can't change the past, the choices they made, but they absolutely have the power to choose what they do today, right now, in this moment.
Exactly. The past may be fixed, but the future is always unfolding. And the Stoics would say that every choice we make, every action we take, is shaping that future. It's incredibly hopeful when you think about it.
It is. Okay, so we can control our choices or actions, but where does that lead us? Because the text mentioned something really intriguing about having an advantage over others. Now, I'm curious, how does all this tie into actually achieving more, being more successful in life?
It's almost counterintuitive, right? You'd think that wanting to control everything would be the path to success.
Right, like if I can just manage all the variables, then I can guarantee the outcome I want.
But that's where the Stoic advantage comes in. They'd argue that if you're not constantly depleting your energy trying to control externals, you have so much more mental bandwidth to focus on what you can actually influence.
So it's about working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like decluttering your mind. You can see things more clearly, make better decisions, and channel your energy more effectively. It's about choosing your battles wisely, focusing on the areas where you can actually make a difference.
It's almost like Stoicism is a productivity hack for life. But okay, I do have to push back a little bit here. The text keeps talking about focusing on what we can control, but is it always that simple? I mean, what about those situations where it's not so clear-cut, those gray areas?
You're hitting on a really important point. It's not always black and white. And that's where I think the wisdom to know the difference part of the Serenity Prayer comes in. It's an ongoing practice, a process of discernment. The Stoics have some great tools for this, like the concept of preferred indifference.
Preferred indifference. Okay, I need a translation on that one.
Essentially, it means recognizing that there are things we can want, like a successful outcome to a project or a healthy relationship, but we shouldn't be overly attached to those outcomes. We can work towards them, we can put in the effort, but ultimately we accept that we don't have complete control over the results.
So it's like aiming for the target, but understanding that the wind might shift our arrow a little bit. You take the pressure off while still allowing us to strive for what we want.
Exactly. And that mindset shift can be incredibly freeing.
It can. Okay, so we're wrapping up this deep dive, and I'm walking away with this key takeaway. Recognizing the difference between what we can and cannot control isn't about becoming passive. It's about becoming more strategic with our energy, more effective in the areas where we can make a difference, and ultimately more resilient in the face of life's inevitable curveballs.
I love that. And it's not just a philosophical concept. There are practical things we can do to cultivate this mindset. Mindfulness, journaling, even something as simple as reframing negative thoughts. These are all tools that can help us shift our focus to what we can control.
It's about taking that Stoic wisdom and making it actionable. Right?
Exactly.
So as we wrap things up here, I'd love to leave our listeners with something to ponder. Think about this. What is one thing in your life right now that you're trying to control that you actually can't? What would it look like to let go of that struggle, even just a little bit? And how might that free up your energy to focus on what you can actually influence?
What a great question. And I have a feeling that simply asking that question might lead to some surprising insights.
It might. Well, on that note, we're signing off for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Stoic control. Until next time.